Welcome, visionaries. This is your host, the INFJ Visionary. Let's talk about reality, the nature of. Yeah, I got a chance. I live in a town that's not that big, and let's face it, I'm pretty much a creature of my routine. Maybe the same as the rest of you. I go to my studio, I do my work, I come home. Sometimes I do a bit of shopping and that kind of thing, but it's not like I'm out in the world that much. But yesterday I went down to a fairly large city close to where I live, and lots and lots of people, man. You know. And I think as INFJs, that's always strikes us. I don't know about you, but I don't like parties. I did never liked giant concerts. I don't. The more people there are around pressing on me, the less I like it. And even more so now I'm a bit older, and I don't hear things as clearly in situations like that. I'm in good shape. Don't worry about your host, the INFJ Visionary. But either way, I don't think it's something we enjoy. But it got me thinking about the nature of my own existence. And here's some truths I want to lay on you. I think hold up pretty well. We don't know what we are, not just as INFJs, but as people. We don't know what we are. Each one of us is, you know, here with a body. We have a sense that the body and the mind may be separate, and there may be such a thing as a spirit, etc., so on and so forth. But if we're honest with ourselves, the one thing we do know with certainty is that we are having an existence and that we have perception. And this NI function is a perceiving function. So I'll try and pull this into INFJness as I can, because a lot of what I'm talking about here will be true of absolutely anybody. So not only do we not know what we are, we don't know who we are. We really don't. We can fill in the blanks with stories, stories that other people have told us, or stories we've told ourselves, or stories based on collected evidence. Either way, if we're going to be 100% honest, we don't know who we are. We don't know what we are. We don't know why we're here exactly. That one I think we can wrangle with a little better. We can get to some answers there because we can test different propositions and theories throughout our life. And I think this is one of the advantages, one of the few maybe, of being older. Although I will say, as an aside, if you're aging, you're having aches and pains and stuff, just look into a more ketogenic diet. That's all I'm going to say. This isn't the purpose of this channel, but I found that turned around a lot of my physical problems and made being in a body as I age a lot more comfortable. So, back to the topic of today's video, which is we don't know what, we don't know who, we don't know why. But on the whys, we can. So that's often filled in with stories as well, and often those stories are created from the research we've done, or a lived experience, or preferences, things that bring us some sense of fulfillment. I think it's for the INFJ, I would say the 100% selfless route is not really a great way to go. Now there might be exceptions to that. Again, if you are an enlightened individual, then none of this is necessarily going to apply to you. You've got everything sussed out at a higher level. But for the rest of us that are here in the morass, I think this is pertinent. So you can't lose yourself in serving other people, because what happens, I think, with the INFJ, the way we're wired, is that we end up in a, it's not so much a loop as sort of a wilderness, a extroverted feeling wilderness. And I was thinking about that extroverted feeling component. We are very lucky to have it. And if you listen to some of the earlier videos on this channel, I refer to it as the extroverted feeling prison. And it is a prison because it constrains us. I think if you were to strip away that concern for others, you might get something quite potentially diabolical. Or so indifferent to others. We brought up the INTP in our previous broadcasts, and they seem to be indifferent to others. But we know, if you know them, they actually have feet of clay. They're much like we don't pick up too well on things in our environment, other than in sort of an unconscious way, near to unconscious. Extroverted sensing is still a conscious function, but it's humming in the background. It's not strong with us. And very much like that, the INTP has that extroverted feeling. So they sort of know when people aren't happy, and they sort of know that they're doing bad. But on the other hand, they're not that conversant with how to use that function. They're not so conversant with how to use that function that they can, get themselves out of certain quandaries. I've seen this firsthand. And our extroverted sensing function is very similar. And anyway, getting back to the nature of our existence and other people, there was other people everywhere. And if you've ever been in a crowd, everyone's life to them is incredibly important and vital. And obviously, I think it is to most of us too, but because of the nature of NI, which is sort of universal in its application, and when you combine that with the extroverted feeling component, which is also has universal properties, I think we do have an ability to appreciate that we are not the only ones. We're not the only people, that other people are having an existence that is very similar to ours, and that it's quite probable that their perceptions, feelings, and experiences could be almost identical, and that maybe the only thing that's different is the means of expression, or their appearance, or their voice, or their sex, right? We don't know these things either. There's a lot of things we don't know, and that was something that when you, this is a thing. If you haven't traveled much, if you haven't got out into the world much, I'm not the guy that's going to tell you that's any kind of path to salvation or enlightenment. But what I will say is that, given my left to my own devices, I would be just looping on my work and the people in my environment, and I get enough stimulation of my extroverted feeling component from going to the place I work every day. That and I have a partner, and I have the guardians of the temple that protect the visionary from all intruders, who are also companions, aka dogs. uh, Yeah, I can just hum along like this for a long, long time. But when I am brought into situations like you run into when you're traveling, like busy airports, crowded cities, having to figure things out and do things in the external world, I personally hate that. I feel a sense of overwhelm, and I have to rise to the occasion. Um, Heck, thank goodness for my wife, who's another introvert, but much better at this sort of traveling thing. I think it was the last time I did a big trip. I had to do a portion of it on my own. It was the first time I ever had to rent a car on my own. And I'm into my 50s at this point, so that's a good example of what I'm sort of talking about. But although we don't know who we are, what we are, why we're here, the fact is that we are here, and contemplating the reasons why and how we can not only bring more happiness and joy to the world but to ourselves, I think is one of the purposes of our existence.